Hello, Mr. Mailer here, online math teacher. Welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be continuing my video series on sampling, and in particular look at simple random sampling. So if you find this video helpful, consider smashing the like button, subscribing, and let's go. So, what is a simple random sample? Well, what it really is if you want to take a simple random sample of size n from a population, it means that every possible combination of size n has an equally likely chance of appearing. An easier way to think about that is every individual from within your population has an equally likely chance of being chosen to be a part of the sample. So no one, either group of individuals or particular person, is more likely to be selected than anyone else. So that is what our definition is. Why do we like some simple random samples? We got some advantages and disadvantages. They're unbiased, and that's the main thing. This is where randomness comes into play, and they're relatively easy to do. There are some disadvantages with this approach, though. Your samples are going to be fairly variable. They may not be representative, so there might be subgroups within your population that maybe aren't represented in your sample. And you need to be able to list or have an easy way to arrange every individual within your population. So that is a little bit of a drawback. So there's advantages, there's disadvantages. Let's look at a few different ways you could give someone instructions on how to carry out a simple random sample. The first of which is if you're going to use a random number generator. So if you're going to use a random number generator, you would need to give each individual within your population a distinct integer from 1 to big N here, where that is how large your population is. So everyone needs a distinct number. Step 2, you would use a random number generator to select however many integers between 1 and n that you want in your sample size. And you would need to make sure you say ignore repeats. So in simple random sampling, you ignore repeats. There are some instances where you do want repeats with random when you want random numbers up. So it's important to include that in your instructions. Step 3, take the n individuals that correspond to the integers generated, and that's going to be your sample. So it's a nice 1, 2, 3 step of instructions. I encourage my students to write out instructions for sampling methods with steps. Some people are fine with body paragraphs, but this is just my approach. So let's look at an example. So a concert plans to select 10 lucky fans to get at random to give VIP backstage passes to the show. The sold out venue has 1,000 seats. So what they can do is assign each seat a distinct integer from 1 to 1,000. Then they can use a random number generator to select 10 integers between 1 and 1,000, ignoring repeats. We can't select the same seat twice. That's not how it works. The person in seat 5 doesn't end up winning 2 different passes. And then finally, take the 10 seats whose numbers were generated and give the fans in these seats the backstage passes. So that's pretty simple. And if you wanted to use something like a TI-84, you might plug in a command like this to get 10 random integers. There's other software you can use too online, just this is one method. A different approach you could do is if you want to use a random digit table. So the steps you could do here is to identify each individual within a population with a distinct numerical label of the same length. So that is important here. When using a digit table, they all have to be of the same length. We'll see an example in our example of this. Then you want to read consecutive groups of digits of the appropriate length from your table, ignoring repeats again until you've selected however many groups of digits you want. Finally, the individuals who correspond to the numerical label selected, that consists of your sample. So what that might look like is the following. A teacher needs to select 15 volunteers from a class of 30 to participate in an experiment. So what this teacher does is they give each of their students a distinct label from 00 to 29. So this is where I say everything is the same length. So 0, 1, 0, 0, 1, 0, 2, all the way up to 29. Then you're going to read consecutive groups of digits of length 2 from your table, ignoring repeats and values from 30 to 99, because we didn't assign anything to that. And then you'll do this until you've selected 15 distinct groups of digits. So this is our stopping rule. Do this until you have your 15. Finally, the 15 students whose numerical labels were selected in step 2, that is your sample. So you can see I did out an example here. So you can see I crossed out anything that we didn't assign numbers. So like 73 got crossed out. The green circles are what I selected as part of my sample, and you can see my blue cross marks are where I had my repeats that I did not want to be repeats. So I crossed it out and moved on. And then the final approach, how to use it with names in a hat. Write each individual within your population's name on equal size slips of paper. Equal size is important here. Put the slips of paper into a hat and mix well. Mix well is important here. Then you'll select however many slips of paper from the hat you want for your sample size. Again, without replacement. We don't want repeats. Little Johnny can't be selected twice in this case. And then finally, take those individuals whose slips of paper were selected, and that will be your sample. So an example of this would be as follows. You have been put in charge of selecting participants for the game show The Price is Right. So step 1 is having each audience member that wishes to be considered fill out an equal size card upon entering the studio. So the cards are equal size. They will then place them into a registration bin or hat, and they will be mixed up well. Then you'll select 9 cards from the bin without replacement because you need 9 participants in each game show The Price is Right. And that is it. Those 9 audience members whose cards were selected will be your participants. And note, I didn't even need the fact that there was 325 people in an audience for the game show. The main thing is they all put their names in the bin. So, I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, smash that like button and have an awesome day.